My grandmother used to work in a receiving home, which is this home for abused children, runaways and throwaways. She would have to deal with their problems, and then she would have to come home and deal with mine, which were severe as well. But she always took that into herself, and I always appreciated that. And we weren't people of means. We lived in a trailer park, and my grandmother would do catering jobs on the side for like the government and stuff like that. And she had a big winter coat, and every now and then she'd come home and she'd open up the coat and steaks would just fall to the floor. And she'd be like, "I just stole the fuck out of this meat." Sweet. You do what you can. You do what you can. She's like, "I pay taxes." And so, growing up with her, she would bolster my spirits and make sure that I went to school every day. There were a lot of days I did not want to go to school, and she made sure that I did that. And she was there for a lot of the wounds growing up. And when my granddad passed away, I really struggled with the idea of her being somewhere alone, and so that's why I ended up moving back to the Okanagan. I live in Penticton. We bought a house together. And she lives upstairs and I live downstairs, and it works out pretty great for the both of us. But it seems like every couple months now, she's getting to that age where we face a new challenge, and the biggest challenge we're facing right now is mobility. Stairs have become a serious issue, and I thought I came up with an elegant solution. I was like, well, why don't we switch? I'll live upstairs and you live downstairs. But she doesn't want to live downstairs because there's no kitchen. And she's a typical grandmother. She loves to bake, which is handy because I like to eat. So that works out well as well. And then I was like, okay, well, why don't we get you one of those electric chairs that'll take you up the side of the banister. It'll take you up the stairs like that. And she looked at me and she said, "Fuck that, I saw Gremlins." I had to watch Gremlins again just to understand what she was talking about. And that's a legitimate fear. But one of the things I did to deal with the loneliness, it's hard because this is how I support us. This is what I do to pay the bills and stuff like that. And I love it, but it's hard because she's requiring more and more care. And I don't want somebody else to do that. I want to be the person to do that, which means I'm going to have to start spending more time at home. And so I'm looking, in the paper for jobs and stuff like that. I actually started circling jobs in the paper because there's no pension for poetry. There's no unemployment insurance. There's no dental. There's fucking nothing. So you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, am I really doing poetry? What am I thinking? I'm fucking crazy. And poetry, we had this saying in Vancouver, in the scene that I came up in, poetry is the lowest paid artistic profession in Canada. Mimes get paid more. And they have nothing to say. But one of the things I did to alleviate some of the stress of having to leave my grandmother alone was I got her a cat. And her and the cat, they love each other, they're as thick as thieves, and I hate it so much. It's such an asshole. I'll come home from on the road, and the cat will trot halfway down the stairs, and then he'll look at me, and he'll be like, and I can just feel it from him. It's like, oh, it's you. Yeah. And cats have a really eerie sense of periphery. Because he'll always just sit on the edge of my periphery. His name is Tig, and he's a big, furry, orange cat. He's huge, so constantly I see this little orange thing out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, oh, Donald Trump. It's hard. And he just waits there. He drives me crazy, but he just waits to be acknowledged. And the instant I turn to acknowledge him, he'll turn around, and he lifts his tail straight up in the air, and he shows me his little butthole. I call it the pencil sharpener because it looks like I could just... I feel like I should should take him around into an exam room and just set him free, and kids can just. That's what he's like. And it's frustrating because cats don't give a shit. Cats don't care. I can't show him my name on all the bills. He doesn't give a shit. And cats put their ass on everything. If you could weaponize cats in zero gravity, it would be the most terrifying weapon. Because it would just be ass and claws coming at you all the time. But it's hard because my grandmother really loves this cat, and so I'm at odds with it. And so I wrote this piece called "I Have a Complicated Relationship with My Cat." I wish you were a dog. I actually give in to superstition, holding my breath as I cross bridges or straining my neck to catch glimpses of leprechauns, and I wish you were a dog. But despite all the birthday candles I've blown out aiming my wishes at you like a bazooka, you're made a cat, an asshole of a cat. I can say that because you've made the habit of sitting on my sandwiches if I make the mistake of turning my back on you. And when I at last believed I had outsmarted you by leaving the piece of bread with mayo upturned, until I was ready to turn it over and eat the sandwich, there you sat, undeterred, grinding mayonnaise into your own asshole. Until I yelled and you jumped down from the counter, trotting away ever so daintily, down the stairs and rested your creamy ass upon my bed. Is too tame a word for you, my friend. And because I know you'll pretend not to understand the subtle irony of me calling you friend, I will state in plain English that in this case, the word friend means fuckface. May I clean your litter box while you sit in it, hissing at me, as if your turds were bars of dark brown gold upon which our world economy is based. Let me hold the door for you for 15 minutes while you ponder the impossibly deep philosophy of making up one's mind. I hope you fall in love with our neighbor's cat, and then our neighbor's cat dumps you. Poor pigeon. While she's shacking up with a bird, she has your kittens, and you have to pay cat child support. I don't know what that is. I hope you develop an out-of-control catnip addiction. And your favorite toys write you letters about what a great cat you used to be, but now you gotta find help. But you refuse their help and spiral completely out of control and end up as some dried-up husk underneath the couch of some hoarder's apartment, one that isn't discovered until the owner dies and the house is won by some auction hunter, who then sells your mummified corpse to a store that specializes in scientific oddities and rare taxidermy. Fuck you, cat. And thank you. Thank you for keeping her company during my long absences. Thank you for giving her laughter when I'm not home. For stitching joy back into her life like fresh fabric over the splitting seams of an old teddy bear. For giving her tired hands something to hold on the night she feels she has nothing. She keeps giving everything away. The doctors assure me generosity is not an illness. And she says that it's your purr. It's the only thing that makes her arthritis better. Something about you vibrating with the frequency of her bones. She never asks me to stay. But I feel the gravity in our goodbyes as each launch takes more of the everything I am giving just to maintain orbit around her world and catch the signals she sends me. If satellites wished on falling stars, they would only ever ask for permission to come home. I have to be out here. The way the world is demands that I make a living. And I love what I do. But But I see now that the thing that brings me joy also takes me away from it. Cat, I'm trusting you more than I trust people. All that is required of you is to be the one thing that I am not. Be there, asshole. Thank you all so much. Please give a huge round of applause for the lighting, sound, and everybody that brought the show on. None of this is ever just one person. There's a lot of people that go into this. So thank you to them. And I'm going to leave you with this piece. One of the interesting things that people always assume, I think, is that when you create something beautiful, a lot of people assume that it has to come from a place of beauty. I don't think that's always the case. I think a lot of beautiful things come from ugly things. There are a lot of ugly things in the world that inspire me to find beauty, to balance that out. And this piece came from this, it's such an odd story how this piece came about. It was inspired by a fart. Which, it doesn't sound good, right? But here, I was in a movie theater, and there were a group of kids off to one side, and I'm a people watcher, not like in a wheelbarrow kind of way, not in a sexual way, but it's like, I observe a lot of what's happening around me. And there were a group of kids off to one side, and there was one kid in the group, he was making all his friends laugh, he was the clown of his group, and he lifted up his leg, he let out a little toot, nothing big, they didn't have to evacuate the place, we didn't need gas masks. And all his friends laughed. And off to one side of the foyer, this guy comes across and he takes his hat off and he starts hitting the kid with his hat. And he's like, how dare you? And that's rude and so inconsiderate of all these people around you. To the point where many of us who were standing around, I think, just assumed that was his dad, which still doesn't make that kind of behavior okay. But it became very apparent very quickly that was not his dad. That was just some guy. And a bunch of us had to sort of intervene and just be like, all right, relax, it's not a big deal. And I remember going into the movie, I can't even remember what I was going to see. I couldn't pay attention to the film. I couldn't stop thinking about this. And so I left. And it just struck me as so strange that in a world with all of the problems we face, with everything that's happening, with fucking Mordor next door, with like all of that stuff, every terrible thing, how are we losing our minds over farts? And I just thought maybe we're just forgetting how to be people to one another. And so I wrote this, and this is called How to Be a Person. How to be a person, 1, find your voice. Know that not all languages contain words. Your voice could be music, it could be dance, it will be what expresses you most sincerely. Your voice is an art. If your heart is broken, make art with the pieces. 2, remember that you are an artist. Regardless of how constantly the world will try to drive it out of you or how a real job will try to bury the part of you that communicates your feelings when language fails, you are an artist. Whether it is with food or building robots, you will know your medium the instant you realize how in love you are with what it brings out of you. 3, apologize. You will not always be right. You will not always be wrong. You will hopefully always be learning. Atonement is a sacrifice of pride. Explanation of why you did what you did or said what you said will not vindicate you. If the cost to heal someone is only your pride, then apologize and be grateful that you received peace at such a bargain. 4, forgive. Realize that some people are still learning. If forgiveness is not possible, then think of everything you ever wanted to be forgiven for, but weren't. Hold that uneasiness in your mind until you feel your desire for absolution becoming a wish. Realize you can grant this wish for others. If you are waiting for forgiveness, be prepared to wait. Be prepared to stand on the path of time and wither. Respect that forgiveness is difficult. Not all trespasses are equal, and not everyone will heal according to your schedule. 5. Accept that farting is funny. Granted, not always appropriate and sometimes unpleasant, but if you cannot laugh, if you are more offended by a fart than by war, famine, political corruption, deforestation, racism, sexism, classism, the wrongfully imprisoned, the treatment of women, the foreclosing on homes while banks' debts are forgiven, if a fart offends you more than any of that, then you are not a person and cannot be helped. Join a cult. 6. Know that love is a vulnerability but not a weakness. Love is the volunteer in you that raises its hand and steps forward without needing to be rewarded. Love is a currency that functions in reverse because the only way to be wealthy with it is to give more of it away. 7. Don't laugh to fit in. Laughter should be honest. If there is no sincerity in your joy, then your happiness will be a forgery that fools only yourself. 8. Do not fear to be hated, but be cautious toward those inhabited by hate. You will be hated. Regardless of who you are, what you say, or what you do, you will be hated for your successes or your failures. For good looks or bad looks, for intelligence or stupidity, hate is the child of the hater, nurtured by the beliefs it has fed. You often will have no control over what you are hated for. Know that antipathy becomes the master of its owner. Know that if you are going to be hated regardless of who you are, then be fearless enough to be who you want to be. Hate is no more eloquently articulated than in the poetry of the expression, not your problem. 9. Try. The tiniest dream that you try to make happen is worth more than the biggest dream you never attempt. 10. Be savagely thankful and continuously in awe of the power you possess. You are alive, inside of an endless cosmos with a freedom that shines brightest in the dark choices. Your choices belong to you so intimately that they will never leave you. They, unlike the changing nature of love or the failing machinery of our bodies, will never abandon you to time, good or bad. They will stay always. An antique that shows the future, who you were and what you stood for. Know that what you choose to stand for is what will inform you of what you've chosen to stand against. So stand. Let each foot crash land into what you believe and plant them there firmly so they may take root in your convictions and stand. So much. Thank you so much.